Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Health Without the System. I am Dr. Tim Scott.
And my name is Mia Scott, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Health Without the System. And today, we actually are going to talk about lowering your toxic load. And I feel if you've listened to us at all for the past however many weeks, that you hear a lot about things that you can do, changing in your environment and food and the chemicals that you wear or ingest or things like that. So for some of our listeners, this might just be like a brief overview, but for some that are new, welcome. This is a perfect episode for you guys. And we came out with, which we'll get into, a really cool guide to help you at the end. But let's get into it.
Yeah, so I did just want to stress that we do talk about these concepts a lot.
Yeah.
And if it feels repetitive, that's okay. Feel free to listen to it a little bit quicker. Maybe share it with somebody who hasn't listened to us. Mia said this is really a good introductory point for really understanding how we view health, how we view lifestyle, the importance of all of that. So without further ado, we're going to run through this episode. This is going to be a nice, like a detox guide, kind of.
Yep.
And we will talk about the detox guide we've created. We put a lot of time into it. I think it's really cool. Let's go from here.
Yeah.
How do you want to start?
Number one, like Tim said, this is a lot that we do in our day-to-day lives. And, you know, my patients who know me very well, my friends, my family, they know that I do everything that I can every single day to lower that toxic burden. First and foremost, shout out to The Rain Barrel Effect. That is a book by Dr. Stephen Cabral. That is something that sparked my interest years ago on what that means or what that looks like to lower your toxic burden, because it really does matter. And you have to imagine your body like a rain barrel. Your rain barrel can only hold too much before it starts to overflow. And that's a lot how these toxins work in our body, where our body does a great job on detoxifying many things. Of course, we have our skin, our kidneys, our liver. There's so many things that help detoxify our body, but when we overload the system, things can go bad. And especially, you know, if you've listened to our last podcast with the MTHFR gene mutation or a bad methylation cycle, you can run into these roadblocks of where you might need some extra support and some extra detoxifying properties. And given that we live in such a toxic sludge every single day, you have to do what you can to lower that toxic load so it doesn't come, you know, and bite you in the butt. Things like energy, mood, depression, anxiety, hormonal dysregulation, your gut, your energy, metabolism, all the things. So that's what we're going to touch on today.
Yeah. So toxic load is the total burden of chemicals and toxins in your body and that your body has to process daily. And I think this is a good point to also speak how we can see how our body's doing. So for me, when I'm looking at people's labs, a lot of times I'm checking some things that aren't so common. So first off, your fasting glucose. We talk so much about how diet can contribute to that. But really, when you start to think about insulin resistance, we talk about how glucose in the bloodstream sort of caramelizes everything. Think of it making it real sticky and your blood becomes more like syrup. And all those little cells and the organelles in the cells that we talk about, like mitochondria, which are the powerhouse, think how they're going to work a little bit slower in this environment. So it's not just sugar, but think of different toxins, the reactive oxygen species that they give off if your mitochondria aren't flowing effectively, and then how that can affect everything else. So some things I might look at: fasting glucose, liver enzymes. So a lot of times when you get liver panels, it will come back as normal if the enzymes are less than about 50 to 55 for your AST and your ALT. And I really look for a number around 20. Once you've mentioned before, once your enzymes get above that 50, 60 mark, you know, as much as 50% of your liver function is reduced.
Yeah. And that's by the flagged marker, as we know. And if, you know, we've talked about this in labs, your range that you see on a lab range, those are ranges based on sick care. That is not optimal ranges. So we look at a completely different set of ranges because we look at optimal ranges, how your body should function versus the average sick care functions. So by the time that your liver enzymes are flagging on a report, this is a big red flag to your body saying we need help, our liver's under distress, and it's hard to function. It's inflamed, it's not doing its job, which then it can backfire on other organs that depend on that.
Yeah, another good test, if your doctor can order it, is a GGT. I will also check a uric acid. Yes, that's a marker of metabolism, but also can be a marker of detoxification. And then there are some more specific markers that you can get into if you want to see if there's evidence of damaged DNA, oxidized LDL, things like that. Just an idea that there are some ways on labs to get an idea of how your toxic load is, but you should just be addressing it. You should know that you're swimming in toxic sludge and that your body's probably doing everything it can to clear it. And so let's talk about that and how we can help it.
Yeah, because when we say it's everywhere, guys, we mean it's everywhere. In your food, in your pantry, on your clothes, your lotions, your body washes, your fragrances, makeup, water bottles. It is in everything. So that's why we say, and we mean it, you have to, control your controllables, because there's things that, like the air, like we've talked about before, that you might not be able to change, but there are things that we can change every single day. And let's say that you feel like you might be overloaded. What are some things that we see from patients? Inflammation. GI issues under chronic stress, inflammatory bowel, fatigue.
Bloating,
Yeah,
acne,
bloating.
gut dysfunction.
Yep, all of that is showing that you might have too much of a toxic load. Now, this is not to say that if you have any of these symptoms, mood swings, resistance to, weight loss, that's not saying that this is the end all be all and that'll cure everything. However, you have to look at your body as an entire picture. And when you're struggling in some of these areas, then in your labs, I'm doing my quotation marks, your labs that your PCP ran were normal, you have to do a deeper dive to say, okay, what am I not doing or what could I be doing to support my body a little bit more to make sure that we are doing the right detoxifying properties.
Yeah. And we talk about this so often, right? Like you'll say, I don't feel well. My body feels off. I am having fatigue. I'm bloating. I'm having difficulty losing weight. Your doctor runs a standard lab panel and says everything's normal. And that sort of leads you to believe that you're crazy or you're doing something wrong or you just don't know what's going on. And now all of a sudden you think you need to see a specialist and you need to do this or that when sometimes it can be handled on a very basic level. So
yeah,
these are some
you're
ways.
Not a medical mystery.
Right.
Sometimes you just need to look at what you're doing every single day and making those changes where it can. Which leads us to the statistic that there's about 80,000 chemicals that we are exposed to. And majority of these are unfortunately not tested for safety or harm. And that's due to the gross law or the Gross law, that's generally recognized as safe. And that's 80,000 chemicals that we are exposed to in our like touching and all that. That doesn't even compare to the 10,000 that we are allowed to ingest. That is just what we are exposed to on pretty much
maybe
a
in your
daily
food,
basis.
in
Right.
your laundry detergent.
Yeah,
and
in
whatever.
anywhere. And a long time ago in the 80s, this law came out for the generally recognized as safe. And basically it's like a blanket law where if you made a chemical or, the business of this chemical, you are responsible for doing the testing and making sure that this is safe and then you can launch it. They don't follow back to say, how did this testing? What,
Right.
What did you do? So it's very easy to have these chemicals enter into our world in our day-to-day life that are severely harmful to our body, our hormones, cancer, toxins, all the things where we're not protected. And I say this all the time, like we are just not protected like we think we are.
Yeah, I think the other thing to consider is not when the company does their internal testing that allows them to submit for generally recognized as safe in food, they're not required to test it alongside other chemicals. So not only the 10,000 additives that are in our food or the 80,000 that you can find in your soaps, detergents, not only are these not thoroughly tested individually, but they're absolutely not even remotely tested in combination. So we don't even know what one of these really does for a lot of them. Imagine 35 of them together in one product, and then imagine times that by the 50 products you're exposed to every day.
Yeah, and simultaneously, it's like we're science experiments. And I said this in the last podcast about the umbilical cord. I mean, they're doing testings on that, and they're finding a couple hundred chemicals in the umbilical cord before, when the baby hits life right away. So it's very obvious how toxic our environment is.
Yeah, the CDC has found BPA, parabens, and phthalates in over 90% of people tested. Another interesting fact is stat is glyphosate, right? So glyphosate covers like 90% of the planet at this point. I mean, they test for glyphosate in, the most isolated, people in the United States and other parts of the world and find it. They're not within hundreds of miles of industrialized farming and it's still getting exposed through the rain. And
right.
rainwater.
It's everywhere. I mean, it's quite literally, and you were getting rained on with glyphosate. And I touched on this before. There was a provider who did their own experiment where she ate organic everything, lived like the healthiest lifestyle, and she wanted to get the glyphosate testing. And there was still small amounts found when she was tested, and she was doing quite literally everything you possibly could. So it just shows you that if you're not actively trying to better your life and avoiding these toxins, you're just going to be infested with them. And then your body can eventually get overloaded. And then you have all of these other things, hormone buildup, metabolism. It can make you insulin resistant and making you obese. It can, really have a hard time with your metabolism. It can also affect
the mitochondrial function, the electron
ATP,
transport change,
everything.
ATP production.
Yep. Your neurofunctioning, your brain fog, your mental clarity, fatigue. And it's really food is a single-handedly the worst offender. And then, of course, your environment, which we'll get into.
Fertility is a big one. I mean, look at the fertility rates decreasing nowadays. And so many people are going to see reproductive and endocrine and fertility doctors. And a lot of it probably could be settled with some lifestyle changes. Not everybody.
Not everybody. But we are in this environment where, unfortunately, it's hard to avoid some of these things. And a lot of the infertility issues happens to also come from endocrine disruptors and males who have testosterone that has never been so low ever at such a young age. And we can contribute that to these environmental toxins and these endocrine disruptors that can make them have low testosterone. Now they can't produce children. And we're seeing this more and more often, where if we don't change our toxic load or take a stand for what we will and will not buy, it's going to continue, and our population and everything is going to be very sick.
Yeah. And I think as we go through this, every episode that we do, everything we talk about, please remember that none of this is meant to scare you. We're not trying to sit here and say doomsday tox. We're just trying to put this in your mind, especially if it's something you've never heard before, because at one point it was new for us and it can be a little bit overwhelming. So we try to be a trusted source, try to give you straightforward information, and hopefully it can help you make some changes. And I think the most important thing to remember, I say this all the time to my clients in weight management, Rome wasn't built in a day. We did not get our pantry to the level that it's at in one day. I mean, it took many years. We didn't get our products in our home to the level that we're at. It took years to get, and we change all the time. There's things we used to think were good that we don't use anymore. And that goes for this podcast too. I mean, if we ever mention something that maybe you've done a little more research on and you want to share information with us, hey, this might not be as good as you think, please let us know. Or if there's something we don't know about, let us know, and we're happy to share it with our listening audience.
Yeah, it's a journey. And if you find a provider who has been stuck in their ways for the last 50 years, it's time for a new person, because, things change and constantly evolve. And believe it or not, we're decently normal people, if that's not hard to believe. But
normal's a relative term.
But I will say, I mean, for those of you who don't know us, we live on a large farm. We're next to farmers that have a massive, crops that they spray glyphosate. We get it. We can only do what we can too. So the days that they're spraying, windows closed, air doctor is
we are literally
really
those
pissed
people.
off.
We were out there with a video camera recording, like, are the winds higher than 15 miles per hour today or whatever it's supposed to be like? But they weren't.
Yeah, as our kids are riding their four-wheelers, like choking, because it's just, I mean, you can just smell it. But this is gross. What we're saying. Like we can only control so much, and we do what we can. We close our windows. Like I said, our air doctor, that thing lets us know when we are not breathing right air. Just a couple days ago, we had a air advisory. It was poor quality. And every single time I opened that door to come in and out, it would just blare. And mind you, this is like far away from the door. Blare full blast. You do what you can. And we will get into ways to help that and feel good about what you're doing, but not go crazy on, everything that you could, quite literally go crazy on.
Yeah. So where do we start? So ways to lower our daily toxic load.
Let's start with the home air, like I was just talking about.
So most people spend a decent amount of time in their house, and you probably can't control the air at your work.
Yeah, and just a fun statistic for you that's incredibly sad is that prisoners get more time outside than the average American during their recess, because we just don't go outside. So your in-house is very important.
Did you say during their recess?
Yeah, how they go outside. They
prisoners have recess?
Yeah,
okay.
That's what they call it when I toured the prison for my clinicals. They said they go out for recess. I mean, I don't know.
I don't think they use that word in prison, but let's just
read that term because we made fun of them for that. But anyway, we digress. What was I talking about? Oh, so yeah, it's 90% of our day is spent indoors. So we have to make sure that we are around good quality air. Personally, at home, we have the air doctors. And if you actually get on their website, they can break it down to what size you need for the room and all of that. They do a very good job on educating you, but we have a few, the big ones for the big rooms. We have some smaller ones for the kids' rooms, and we change those filters. And when I change those filters, my Lord, is it disgusting. So that's a good one. HEPA filter, obviously you're looking at, some very clean air purifying. Air Doctor can be pricey. I will say that they do a really good Black Friday sale around Thanksgiving-ish. They will have a sale that lasts that is pretty good. It's almost 50% off, maybe 40% off. Mark that down to keep an eye on their website. But they do have some other cheaper options if you don't want to do the Air Doctor. And that's personally what we have.
My personal favorite is the plants. I really like plants. Yes. Mia does not have a green thumb. It's a brown thumb. She kills everything she touches. But the spider plants, the peace lily, the snake plants, these are all really good. I like the way the snake plants look. I think those are super cool. These are air purifiers. I mean, this is natural. You can put these around the home. They can be part of your decor. And a big one, this is big for me because I've been doing some traveling for my emergency medicine work over the past 6 to 8 months. But those stupid smelly candles and Glade plugins and stuff, you got to ditch that. You got to do more natural scents. For a while in the winter, I was boiling like a pot on the stove. I saw something that said, make your house smell like one of the old kitchen stores. I forget what it's called. But anyway,
like Home Goods or
something. I put a little crock pot. It had like cranberries, some cinnamon cloves. I forget what lemon. Yeah.
And it actually smelled phenomenal.
Yeah. So anyway, there's plenty of ways to scent your house. Please do not use the plug-ins and the scented candles.
Yeah. If you have to, I think they say
now there are natural. Yeah, I was going to say there are natural soy-based essential oil candles. That kind of stuff's okay. But your typical, I'm not going to say the brands, but you guys know what I'm talking about. You might want to check the ingredients on the back of that and try not to burn that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a given. Just get rid of those. You go to essential oils. But that is all in our guide that we talk about as well.
Yep. We'll just talk about it as we go. We created a guide. It's the ultimate guide to detox.
Yep. It leads you to, it's like a 12-week, almost like a program or a 12-week course that you can follow step by step, because if you're anything like us and you get a lump sum of things, you can get overwhelmed. So we go into everything about how to detox and what is detoxification or why it's important. And then we break it down into a 12-week step. So like week 1 and 2, you're only doing this in your house. Week 2 to 4, you're only doing this in your house.
Makes it manageable.
It makes it very manageable because our lives, we get it. We're insane. And it's very hard to get or easy to get overwhelmed with it.
Yeah, because I mean, we get on here and we talk about you need to clean up your water, you need to clean up your air, your pantry.
Bring down your pantry.
Yeah. And, our friends that help us with our social media, Meredith and Brittany, they say we ruin everything for them,
Yeah, but they're healthier for it. So you're welcome, guys, if you're listening.
Yes. Okay, so start with your home air. Second, your home water. So you need some filtered water. You just got to. You can't trust the city water. We've mentioned before, go to ewg.org. You can see all the contaminants in your water. There's actually a lot of cool stuff on that website, but it will show you all the contaminants.
It is incredibly shocking. I highly suggest. And I'm not talking like, oh yeah, that's a little bit much. No, I'm talking hundreds of times the amount of things, of bromine,
if not some, or thousands
of
times.
Thousands of stuff that are heavy metals and chemicals that we cannot be ingesting over and over.
But we do.
Yeah. We have to purify that. But once again, this guide breaks it down because you're not only going into the water that you're ingesting. We have a purifier on our shower and a purifier on our bathtub. So when I give the kids baths, anything that you can to cycle that water, it'll pull out the heavy metals. Your skin is one of the biggest permeable membranes that it's going to absorb.
And your skin also helps you a lot with toxic clearance. So you'd like to not be putting so many toxins on it so it can clear the bad stuff out. And just to let the audience know, I mean, we didn't get a shower purifier probably until a year and a half or maybe 2 years after we were purifying our water. So it took us a while to get to these steps. Again, nobody's perfect. Please don't let your age or where you're currently at, stop you. Start doing what you can when you can. It's not all or none.
And it's things that you don't think of. So of course we did the AquaTrue. That's my favorite. Berkey's a good one too, but we did the AquaTrue, just the counter one.
Water. Yeah, for water.
And then it wasn't until my daughter started to have this like weird rash that I'm like, okay, I'm thinking about everything now. And that's when I bought the bathtub one because I'm like, okay, every single toxin, heavy metal, poison, whatever that she's putting on her. So it does take time or it takes experience. And so that's why we're here to give you both and tell you what we've learned over the past however many years of our journey. And it's still going.
For water purification, reverse osmosis is great, especially if it's something that can add some of the minerals back in. If you can't do a reverse osmosis system like installed under sink or whole house, which we don't have, you mentioned the AquaTrue, the countertops. Those have been great for us. We are a family of 6 people. There's us here every day, 4 kids, also the nanny. So, I mean, there's a lot of people in our house. We fill that desktop water or that countertop water about
3 to 4 times a day.
Oh, more than that, probably. I feel like 3 to 4 each. But anyway, point is it works. And it's expensive, but doable. It's a few $100.
Yep.
It's been well worth the money.
In our guide, they also do some flash sales for that too. So I'm actually going to try to work on a discount code for them. So I'll do a shout out if we do, but they do have a good one.
And at the very least, even a Brita, charcoal filter, it's better than nothing. You're missing some things, but start there if that's what you can do.
Yep, those are the big ones. And then for the love of all that's, if you guys are still drinking out of water bottles, you just might as well just stop listening right now because you're not going to like any of our podcasts. You have to change that. There's many studies that show now, I think they did the top 10 brands of the most common water bottle. They didn't disclose it because of course, you don't want a lawsuit on your hands, but just know it was the top, at least the stuff in your house. You want to avoid those. They're showered with microplastics. I think the study said that there was over 200,000 microplastic particles per water bottle. They are shipped. They are not kept cold all the time. You're in freight for days, which in a hot truck, those microplastics will leach into your water. Then you drink them. And like I said in the last podcast, we're on a roll of eating a credit card a week right now in microplastics, which is insane.
Yeah, it was about 3 or 4 years ago. We were getting ready to go to country concert, remember? And I bought a case and we had to take plastic water bottles to that. I mean, it was what it was for the weekend. But we were still occasionally using plastic at the time. And I bought these water bottles and they were sitting outside. And both you and Kaylee, our nanny, were like, what are you doing? Those are sitting in the sun. And I'm like, why is that a problem? And then that's when you taught me all that. And so literally 4 years ago, I didn't know this. So please, understand it's a journey.
It is.
These are things you learn as you go.
And we get it.
And I've been a doctor for 15 years. So just to let you know, being a doctor doesn't mean you know all these things.
Exactly.
And you can't just, rely on what your medical professional tells you some of this.
Newsflash, you can't always trust your doctor. We'll be the first to tell you that one. But anyway, we get that you have crazy lifestyles with traveling or kids or whatever. You guys, if you can see this video, I'm holding up my Awala. I think that's how you call it. And Tim has this one that he got from Costco. Stainless steel. Mine holds 64 ounces. I linked this in our non-toxic guide. You get them on Amazon. Fill these up. Travel with them. That lasts me an entire day worth. I fill it up maybe twice. But We get it. If you have to travel, who cares if you're the crazy person with a large thermos? Imagine how many water bottles that you're going to continue to drink every single day that sit in your car, that you drink after you're working out or whatever. Just ditch them. Don't buy them. Just don't buy them.
A thought is think about what's going to work for you. Like, how do you travel? Is it by, are you in a car a lot? Are you in an office? Because this one is great. It's not plastic, but it does not fit in a car holder. So it's really annoying when I try to take it in the car somewhere. It fits in my lunch bag to go to work, no problem. Hers actually fits in the cup holder.
Yeah.
So anyway, just some thoughts on when you're choosing a product.
But if you don't drive like Tim, it might actually just stay where it is in the car, and you might not need a good cup holder if you.
So you brought your jokes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
As long as you don't rely on the rumble strips for your traffic control. Anyway,
rumble strips are there to wake you up.
God, you did not hear that. Anyway, so that's what we do for our water bottles. In the kids, I just got a notice, or this was when Lincoln was going to school at his old school. They said, please send, plastic, bottles only, because they worry about these large thermoses. I'm like, no way.
We're like, nope,
so,
not doing it.
I'm like, yeah, I just didn't read that. So you get on Amazon, you get a small Awala or something that's closed in stainless steel or copper, even like the copper ones. But just please, at all costs, avoid plastics, microplastics, things that are going to be toxic. Look for the BPA free, chemical free, all of the things, that those big buzzwords.
Yep,
but
we want to keep the plastic out of your brain. All right, so we have started with our home air. We've started with our water. Next up is personal care.
Yeah, and this hits huge for females for sure. I mean, imagine the second you wake up and wash your face. What are you putting on it? Your makeup. What are you putting on it? What are you drinking while you're doing that? What are your lotions after your showers? It is everything. It is your deodorant. Remember that your deodorant you're literally applying that under very sensitive lymph nodes that are going to absorb. If you are getting deodorant that has aluminum in it or that's an antiperspirant, throw that right in the trash. Your body needs to sweat. If you are not getting rid of those toxins, it's going to, increase your toxic burden. You're not going to be able to clear and process that.
Absolutely. No, go ahead. I was just going to say, and you also have to be aware of just a lot of other things. And this is an example. We've talked about different makeups and all the chemicals, and obviously there's some very clean brands, and we have links to that.
I do. I think I have, not for my because my makeup is not on Amazon, but I can link it. I personally use Adele as my brand. It's very clean, and it was a little bit of a learning curve to get used to, but because it's like almost like a matte, and you have to rub it or brush it out because it's not a powder. But honestly, I love that brand, and it's very clean and pure. I will link that in our toxic guide, though.
Yeah, and I was going to say, because someone mentioned to me, there's a big store, there's Sephora. Yeah, Sephora. I don't shop there, sorry. Sephora, and they have, it's called Clean at Sephora. There's like a label that goes on the makeup, and that's supposed to indicate clean ingredients. And I was Googling it because I wanted to remember, and it does try to exclude sulfates, parabens, phthalates, mineral oil, and formaldehyde. But there are still some other potentially harmful ingredients like certain fragrances and preservatives. Mm-hmm. So anyway, my point is, still be careful. It's just like when we talk about food and there's tricky marketing practices, you might see some of the same things in makeup. So just do your research. And honestly, I don't know a whole lot about Sephora or anything. So the clean label, it might be decent. It might be a lot better than what you're using now. And it could be a good first step. Just saying, continue to pay attention to it.
Yeah, I mean, imagine, like I said, your skin, it is so permeable and it can absorb so quickly. Like our medicine patches that we do, within minutes, you can feel that start to absorb for whatever the case may be for what's on the medication. So your skin will absorb anything that you put on it. And these chemicals that he mentioned are considered forever chemicals, which means that they take 20, 30, 40, 50 years to leave the body, which is insane in itself. Because imagine that building. Every single day.
Yeah, it just builds up. And I mean, you can only clear so much.
Like petroleum, I should just add that in there. If you guys are using Aquaphor and Vaseline and stuff, that is petroleum based. That does not leave the body. It takes a very long time for that to extrude from your body. It's forever. So just stop using that. Stop using petroleum for your kids.
And here's a quick aside that I would just like to talk about. Recently, we started trying to be a little bit more active on social media to see if we can grow our audience and spread our message more. It's been fun, but social media is so toxic sometimes.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, I started trying messing around with the platform Threads. And there's never been a more toxic platform that I've been on. Everybody on there knows everything. And if you have an opinion that differs from someone, they immediately say that you're a quack and you should basically just die. And you're like, okay, sorry, I just had a slightly different opinion. Yeah. My whole point to that is if we get on there and say, hey, you should keep petroleum out of your body, there's going to be 100 people that respond and say there's nothing wrong with putting petroleum in your body. If we say you should use clean makeup, there's going to be 100 people that say your makeup's fine. Who cares if it has phthalates, parabens, whatever. Yeah. My point is we don't try to come onto this and pretend we know everything and everything we say is right. What we're sharing with you is what we believe based on our research, our life experiences, and how we choose to live. If you choose to follow and do along, great. And if not, that's okay. And if you have other information elsewhere, that's cool too. I just wanted to put that out there because I think that the most important thing is to formulate your own opinion and do what works for you. Mm-hmm. And we just hope to provide some education and our opinions.
Yeah. And also to note, like, you guys, you can't be, you have to open your eyes to this, because in what day and age are we living in that we have 20, 30 or childhood cancers? Like, you guys, you just can't turn a blind eye to it anymore. After that Gross law, after the release of all these toxic chemicals with our environment, the way that we are set up, we have never been sicker.
Yeah, we have teenagers with obesity, teenagers with diabetes, teenagers with cancer, teenagers dying, 24-year-olds dying at heart attacks at a rate that's never been seen. I mean, something's doing it. Is it one particular thing? Probably not.
Exactly.
Is it the toxic sludge of everything we talk about on all these episodes? We think so.
And to be honest, I mean, we've been doing this for so long that it becomes second nature, but we also know that we have decades of life left, and our kids have decades of life left too. And we want to keep them healthy for as long as we can. And this doesn't take much. It takes some patience to understand month over month and year after year. And you quite literally can watch yourself change each year, become a better person of yourself. But I don't want to play Russian roulette on my children's health or my own health. And especially given with our family that's been sick or whatever that looks like, I'd rather just avoid these chemicals, because I know based on studies and research that they are toxic. So why would I ingest them, inhale them, put them on my skin, all the things.
Plus, I already know what's going to happen to me. Like, I'm going to live this incredibly clean life. I'm going to be like 56. I'm going to finally have all my finances in order.
And then get hit by
I'm going to retire. I'm going to walk out of the doctor's office with a clean bill of health. And like she said, I'm just going to get struck by a bolt of lightning and die on the spot. Yeah. So that's where I'm at.
You win some and you lose some, but at least you went out with a bang.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, then there's that. But once again, I mean,
so we're auditing.
Take a chance.
We're auditing our personal care right now. We were talking about soaps, detergents. Did we talk about that yet?
Yeah. First, the detergents and the non-toxic detergents. You guys, I've been making my detergent for years. It is so easy. You just buy a massive thing of baking soda at Costco. You can add a bunch of drops of your favorite essential oil. I also linked those in the toxic guide. And then you can get some washing soda, or my grandma always says washing, maybe she rests in peace, washing soda. And then you can make a massive batch for pennies, and that goes very long.
I've been totally fine with that stuff. Occasionally we had a little funky smell or two, and we might add in something.
Yeah, once in a while, if you're, heavy dirt work, but you just add a couple extra scoops. We've had no problems with that. That's a good one. Fragrances are an absolute no in our house. We just use essential oils. Our kids have an essential oil organic roll-on. It smells fine. We've liked it. We don't have any problems with that. We use our diffuser here at home.
Yeah, we have no cologne, no perfumes, nothing like that.
Shampoo. I actually use the shampoo non-toxic bars. It was a little bit hard to get used to, but I swear my hair has never been so soft
And
ever.
You don't have boy hair. I mean, you have long, thick hair.
And I wash it. Here's a little newsflash. I once or twice a week, because that's all I need. I mean, it stays fine and healthy. But I use a rice water bar. It's non-toxic. Tim uses the native for the kids. For the body wash, for our body wash, we just use an organic. I can never say this. The Castile, is that what it's called?
Castile soap.
Yeah, the soap, where it's just it's a few ingredients. That is it. So. Yep. Those all matter. I mean, you imagine we were just.
Did you mention deodorant? I think you talked about it earlier. Yeah, obviously, make sure you're getting aluminum free. Check your brands.
Yep. There's native.
Don't want to use antiperspirants
or aluminum. Absolutely no.
Your body wants to sweat. Sweat is how you clear toxins. It is one way. Please don't block it from sweating. If you are a hyper sweater, if you have hyperhidrosis, you should definitely talk to your doctor about that. And you should also do some research, because there are some ways you can address that. It might be signaling some metabolic dysfunction. It might be signaling some genetic issues, but there's ways you can address it outside of the scope.
And if you want to go way back to our podcast with when we had a guest on, he had an amazing story on how he healed with his sweating issues as well. There was multiple underlying causes, but for the love of the Lord, me personally, you can do what you want, but do not get on the antiperspirant medications like that, because you're just blocking. No, the medication.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
the medication that you take to stop that for those types of conditions. That is a huge red flag that your body is saying, we need help. We are trying to offload all of these toxins. And then you take a medication to stop sweating. It is a disaster. I mean, you're talking about long-term damage that we don't even know of. So just please tread lightly. If you want to find more natural ways to do that, we can certainly assist you.
Yep. So toothpaste is the last one too.
Toothpaste, I did link that. We use like a black seed oil. It has
It says
turmeric
like
powder
6
in it.
organic ingredients
Yeah.
in it. I mean, it was a little funky at first, but I have absolutely no
bad.
problem with it. Even the kids will use it from time to time. They say they don't prefer it, but
Yep.
no
and then-
problems.
But we use the, oh my gosh, what is it called? I should link it. But the other two, we use something with hydroxyapatite as a remineralizing powder a couple times a week just because we don't do fluoride. What is their toothpaste called? It's called
I don't
Sweet
know
Potato.
that
It's
brand.
a probiotic toothpaste,
I know
but
what
that's
you're
what the
talking
kids
about.
use.
Yeah. It's an organic, probiotic, fluoride-free, gentler
Yep.
toothpaste.
It's a good one. So
There's
anyway,
a mint and a strawberry. They like it. We'll try to remember to put something on there.
yeah, I did. I actually did put that in the guide too. But just know, toothpaste, everything that you can think of, remember that toxic load, because just count for a day. Read the ingredients of your shampoo. Read the ingredients of all your face stuff and your face wash and your lotion, and count up at the end of the day how many ingredients that you put on your body. You will just,
You'll die.
Insane.
And then also EWG is another, we talked about EWG.org. They have the Skin Deep database, which is a good place to look at some of the stuff that we're talking about today.
Yep. So that's topical. The work guide that we give you guys for the toxic load, that kind of breaks down other things that you can do in general. And I also linked a lot of our, some of our personal products that we use. But that is your personal care. And then we go into what we ingest.
Yeah. Now, I don't think we should go too crazy on that for this because we talk about
touch
clean
about
eating
that
all
all
the
the
time.
time.
But some simple things, buy organic when you can. If you're not buying organic, make sure that you're washing your fruits thoroughly. There's certain little, recipes you can make at home to help clean off your fruits and stuff.
The Dirty Dozen, the Clean 15, those are the ones that if you absolutely had to skip or, buy organic on only a few, those would be the ones. And then anything that's in the kitchen. So huge on cutting boards. I linked the cutting boards that we have, just the wooden ones in general, because if you think about if you're using a micro or plastic cutting board and you're cutting on that,
Which
you're
we did
getting
for years.
which we did for years. Yep. We threw away all of them now because they're just that. They are getting microplastics into your food. Speaking of food, your dishwasher, those pods that are covered in a microplastic casing that you basically melt and then shower all over your food, and then you put your food in the bowl and you eat it. So these are the things that, or you warm it up, which is even worse, and then you eat it. So these are little things that you would have no idea, that things that you can change, that all in all, lowering every single day a toxic load will make you function better, will make you feel better, your brain fog, your fatigue, your cells, it will all thank you.
Yep. And we talk about this all the time, but obviously just avoid processed foods as much as you can. There's a lot of seed oils in it. There's a lot of the generally recognized as safe ingredients. Added sugar, avoid added sugar. Again, that's not necessarily a toxin in of itself, but it gets in your body. Too much sugar is toxic. It prevents toxic clearance. So just avoid added sugar, processed food, seed oils. We say it all the time.
Yep. Yeah, listen to any other podcast. You'll learn that
Yes.
food is very important.
Filtered water for cooking. So that's just another thought. Like when you're filling up your pots, if you have one of these countertop or undermount sink filtration systems, obviously you want to use that when you're cooking.
Yeah, another example to give you guys. So like I said, we live on a farm, we have water, but we have the purifying system. And I used for my diffuser one day, just regular tap water. And I'm not kidding when I say the amount of like sediment and gunk on the bottom of that I had to physically clean out before I refilled it. Because normally I just use my AquaTrue to fill my diffusers, but it wasn't filled at that time. So I just filled up with tap water. I couldn't believe the residue that left in there from just normal tap water that wasn't purified yet or cleaned yet. And imagine you drinking that however many times a day. Like it does matter. Like all of these things add up to, and I actually had to throw away a diffuser upstairs for the same thing.
Yeah.
I was using normal water.
Also think about different things like different appliances, anything that requires water. So for example, the coffee maker, we do try to use like a stainless steel French press from time to time, but we also have an espresso machine. And I had forgotten for a while to clean the little water thing on the back. The only thing we put in the water is the filtered water. And when I cleaned it, it still had, some buildup.
Yeah.
It actually had a little bit of like a
type
mossy
thing,
algae kind of thing. So
Yep.
it cleaned that out really good. Anyway, just think of all those little things.
Yep.
The next one that we were going to talk about is ditching plastics. I feel like we've beat this to death.
This is just so obvious, but it's
Just-
also not obvious because I have so many of my patients that I talk to that are still using plasticware. For the love of all that's right, don't microwave plastic. Don't even use it. Don't heat up in it. Nothing. We went to Costco. I went through a
Even when it
rampage.
says BPA free,
Yes, just
phthalate
stay
free,
away
just
from
stay
plastic.
away from plastic.
So when I first dove headfirst into this journey, that was the first thing I did. I opened up every single pantry. I got rid of every plastic spatula, plastic water cup, plastic bowl, any type of container, bags, whatever. And I replaced that with silicone freezer bags. And then we went to Costco. It's not that expensive. And we got 2 big boxes of all of their glassware. We replaced all of that. My kids, I linked all of this into my toxic guide. My kids eat from stainless steel plates, stainless steel silverware, stainless steel cups. we don't have, my kids do not eat or touch
Or
plastic
glass.
in
They
the
do.
house.
We do glass too.
Yeah, glass. But if you have 4 kids like ours,
Yeah, we gotta be careful
tread
with
lightly
that.
with that glass because, things go flying.
And the other thing is the cookware. Obviously there's a lot of forever chemicals in your nonstick surfaces. There are some cleaner, safer versions. Go ahead and check those out. But there's still some leaching and stuff.
If it's nonstick, that it just makes me nervous. Like,
be.
what is on there that's making this not stick? So the stainless steel does take a little bit of time to get used to. I will be the first to tell you this. When Tim and I, this was a freaking decade ago, but when I was cooking with nonstick, where he introduced me to stainless steel, and I would burn everything, or it was just terrible. It took me a little bit to learn how to cook with that. But once you did, we haven't gone back. We threw away everything.
The other thing is, remember, just because it's stainless steel doesn't mean you don't have to worry about it, because some of the cheaper products can actually give you leaching of heavy metals and stuff. Please just do your research and make sure it's a decent product. We do have some links in the detox guide.
Yep.
Next, support your detox organs. So again, this is going to be through a lot of different things we've talked about, but just remembering that your body does detox. Your kidney, your liver, your skin, everything is built in to get rid of, the bad things. So
pay attention to our last thing that we talked about, our last podcast with the methylation cycle here. And that can tell you some ways to detox as well. But number one, and this is something that I encounter every day with my patients, is your bowel habits. That is a first and foremost indicator right there. If you are not having daily bowel movements, like that's great. If it's every other day, we're getting to the red waters. If it is more than every other day, you can take it to the bank that you have inflammation, you're not clearing your toxins, you can have hormone dysregulation because you're not excreting that. Remember, your estrogen gets reuptaked in the gut if you're super constipated. It matters. And for those of you who say, oh, I just go once a week or twice a week, my doctor said it's normal. There is nothing, absolutely nothing normal. It might be your normal, but that is not normal, and your body will be in trouble for that. So make sure you're monitoring those things, opening up your detoxifying pathways. I did put some specific supplements in that toxic guide, but please, if you don't know what you're doing, potentially work with a provider on that one. Of course, this is not medical advice. Do what you want. These are all over-the-counter supplements, but just know, make sure your pathways are open, make sure you're pooping daily, and all the things.
Just bringing this back together, we look at everything through a functional medicine lens, and you don't just treat symptoms. When there's something going on with you, when you're saying, gosh, why do I have acne all of a sudden? I've never had acne. Why am I getting migraine headaches? You don't necessarily need to go to the doctor and get an antibiotic for acne, a migraine medication. Take a look within your own life, what can be happening. Did you change something in your diet? Has something in your diet been off for a long time? All these things don't necessarily come to the forefront of your mind until you look for them. And once you do, you can't unsee them.
Yeah.
Once you start to realize what you're exposed to and what you're putting on and in your body, you can't help but change it because you just don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And we've seen patients, Mia, you mentioned Tony was my friend and a guest on our podcast. He went through a huge transformation of his entire life. He lost a ton of weight. He's actually lighter than me with more muscle now, which is a little bit infuriating.
Unrecognizable.
Yeah, but anyway, he lost a ton of weight, but it cleared up his skin. I mean, he had debilitating skin condition his entire life, hidradenitis suppurativa. He couldn't hardly function some days, and it resolved. His sweating condition resolved, although he was sweating. He was sweating quite a bit
nervous,
at the podcast.
but that was stress induced.
Yeah, once we got it under control, he was cool. But anyway, the point is, for every reaction in your body, look for the cause within before you just think I need a medicine to treat it.
Exactly. It is treat the system, not the symptom. And that should be everybody's take-home point in general, especially given that a lot of us go to doctors and listen to our doctor, but they a lot of times just throw on a pill to mask another symptom. And once again, we are never, ever going to sit on here and bash Western medicine providers. We are all taught the same. We get it. We just happen to be very lucky that we escaped and see our new light in a different lens with functional medicine training. But it's not essentially their fault. That's what they're taught. But just understand, if you are on a pill or a medication to mask a symptom, maybe ask why you have that symptom instead. So treat the system, not the symptom.
I think this is pretty cool. We put in here that to ask people, if this episode opened your eyes to your daily exposures, please take one small step if you can today. Swap out one particular product. Maybe you're just opening your windows and getting some fresh air. Read a label for the first time. Maybe you don't really even know what you're looking at, but just try it. Maybe you've never looked at an ingredient label. Give it a try. A product label, anything like that.
We have a podcast on how to read ingredients too, which I think we could do another one on that as well to deep dive into that. But yeah, it's slow and steady changes. Throw out that water bottle. I know if you're listening to this right now, you probably have a water bottle sitting in your car. Don't drink that. Throw it away, especially in the summer. I mean, it's just so bad for you. You're just drinking a slew of toxins, and your body can only do so much before it can't anymore.
So we have this ultimate guide to detox that is available on our stand stores. We each have a stand store. We will put a link to in the show notes.
Yep.
And did you create a code?
We'll just do RIXA as the code.
Okay.
Just do the capital
RIXA
RIXA for the code, and you guys can get a percentage off. But that'll be in the stand store. We'll link it in the show notes as well. We have some cool stuff on the stand store. We actually have, for me anyway, I have my link to my Full Scripts account for supplements. These are just a few of my favorites. Of course, if you have any other issues or something, I'll have maybe a different recommendation. But those are my solid that I go to quite often. If you listen to us on the last podcast, we're working on our supplement line, so some of that will be added as well. But just some cool things to check out.
We each have a stand store. They're both a little bit different.
Yeah.
We both have free stuff on it too, so you don't just have to buy.
Yeah, I just want to, send some resources out. It's stuff we get asked all the time. What supplements do you like? Any guides? So we're really trying to ramp this up. So we have tons of free guides. Of course, the guides that we do have to purchase, I mean, they go with a lot of time and thought into them. So we do have some that are for sale that you can download and have forever. But then we do have a lot of freebies that we're going to be putting on there, because knowledge is power. And that is our entire goal of this free podcast, to making sure that you guys have that decision and true informed consent to be, in power of your own wellness journey.
Yeah. If you got something out of this, please share it. Please tell somebody. Please swap out one thing in your life. We welcome any comments or feedback. Any constructive criticism is always appreciated. We thank you guys so much for tuning in. And just a reminder,
this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not medical advice. This is not a substitute for professional care, diagnosis, and/or treatment. Always consult with your healthcare provider before making any decisions to your health routine. Remember that you have the power. Join in next time to get more knowledge.
You have the power.
Lower your toxic load, guys. Till next time.
Thank you so much.